In the 14th century, a terrible catastrophe fell upon Asia, Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa that would change the course of history. The Black Death. The delirious victim staggers about in his final moments. His speech is slurred, skin purple-black, covered with swollen, pus-filled lumps, as his death delirious victim staggers about. Witnesses to this terrifying spectacle call it the dance macabre. His speech is dance of death, skin purple-black, unexplained sickness, which was spreading like wildfire.
There are fears that the coronavirus outbreak could become a pandemic. We now know
he has entered its first full lockdown since the start of the coronavirus pandemic. Turkey has previously issued a series of partial lockdowns.
This is a time for all
began
countries
last month.
to focus on preparing.
Whereas in
We
Germany,
do not
the
live
total
in a
number
binary
who have died
black
from the
and white
virus
world.
has been just over 4,500, and all that despite the fact that Germany.
It's hard to imagine this is how 2020 started. But across the world, dozens were falling ill with a mysterious virus that would ultimately change.
Hi, my name's Sandy Brechin, and I am allegedly a professional accordion player.
My name is Kevin McMonagle, and I'm an actor.
I'm also a record producer. I have my own record label, bringing out music from myself and other artists. And I have an agency for booking bands for gigs and ceilidhs and that kind of thing. I also teach accordion, which is my main instrument.
And just prior to lockdown, I was working on a production of Witness for the prosecution at County Hall in London.
It was going quite well, so I had quite a lot of bookings, and I travel abroad quite a lot. In fact, just before the first lockdown, I was in Germany and Sweden in the 2 weeks before.
Production of Afterlife, which was due to be starting at some point at the National later last summer, and also I was involved with the production at the Royal Court, and that was in workshop or sort of situation with a view to be going on towards the end of last summer, and that was really exciting kind of project. So I was kind of booked for most of the summer.
The gigs all went within, I'm not exaggerating, about 48 hours. They all toppled like a pack of cards, and it was the same for everybody.
I thought, well, the general mood seemed to think it was, it'll be over in a few weeks. I mean, we were working in central London, and most days I was traveling to work. So that was through Waterloo at Russia. The chances of us being infected were probably pretty high, and then many of us did spend quite a lot of time sick on that job, just because we were so mixing with the public.
The gigs just tumbled. I remember getting a call, and it was a Wednesday night. I was playing in one of my regular weekly pub sessions in Edinburgh, and I got an email from a lady that was organising a church ceilidh that I was supposed to be playing at 3 days later that Saturday, to say that they were cancelling it because it wasn't worth the risk. And that was the first one. That after that, they just all toppled everything for the rest of the year. The UK government have been pretty appalling, because they just dismissed initially, and probably still do, to a certain extent. It's only they've been forced into reluctantly giving money to the arts in any form during this. But certainly initially they were not only not making the grade, but they in supporting, but they were actively dismissive of artists with the terrible faux pas of the Fatima campaign. Fatima was a ballet dancer. Now she's retraining as an IT consultant or something. And it was just so insulting to all the people that have spent their whole life, you know, honing their art. And we were all doing, not all brilliantly, but most of us were getting by anyway on, you know, what we were earning. So it wasn't like it was an unviable occupation, as they were saying. And of course, people have realised, since it's all been cut off, that the general public, I mean, how much they miss the arts and take it for granted. I think everybody realises now.
Not unique. I mean, the problem is there's very, very poor safety net for everyone in Britain right now. The safety net that used to exist, it doesn't really anymore. And I mean, unfortunately, or fortunately, most of the population is discovering that right now. And so maybe good things will come out of it that way. But, you know, I've never been under any illusions about what a Conservative government means and what they do, what they're like, what they're about.
I started this show, which is a weekly Facebook show, because I was invited to join this Facebook site by some friends who are also musicians, and thought it would be a good idea to put up an online show with a PayPal me link for tips. Because it was Easter, the second week was Easter after the lockdown, and I had this full-size bunny costume from student days still in my basement. I thought, oh, that'd be quite funny if I'm going to be brave enough to wear it. I thought, oh, go on, do it. And so I wore it, and it got quite a good reaction. And so I just kept putting on silly costumes or making up silly costumes after that. And now I would never have believed then it was still going to be there a year later. A year later, yesterday, I got that bunny suit out again.
Did move online really early on. There was a lot of stuff happened. I was involved in some comedy sketch stuff that was happening online, and
led to me being very creative in a way that I never ever imagined, having done a little bit of theatre, well, a fair amount of theatre, but not for many years. So to be honest, it's given me a new outlet, and it's brought me some new fans from all around the world. It's given me a focus every week to do that show, and so much so that I've been invited quite regularly to do spots on other people's Facebook shows. So sometimes I end up doing 2 of these a week, and they're all quite a lot of work.
And we're due back in a fortnight. It's going to be really different. I mean, I've done these workshops with on this show, and they'll be testing 2 or 3 times a week, I believe. I mean, it's the way it's got to be. I mean, I don't really know if it will stop the spread of infection when you've got a dozen people in a room for 5 weeks. Even if they do all that, can that really stop? I don't know.
It's a big thank you to all people who have unbelievably generously donated. A lot of them my friends.
Theatre will always come back. It's really popular. People like it. So hopefully I'll still have a little place for me in it when it all comes back. Even if it is a much more contracted industry.